This presentation will help you and your students understand the use of copyrighted materials in education. There's a lot of new thinking about copyright. Those posters by the copy machines and the guidelines we've been following are just that, negotiated guidelines, not law. Media has evolved, and so has our interpretation of what is fair to use in education. What is our district's interpretation? Based on court rulings, we may be interpreting copyright too strictly. You've seen on those copyright posters by the copy machine that you can use 10% of a poem or 2 pages of an illustrated work, but those are just guidelines. What about music? Up to 10% but no more than 30 seconds? Still guidelines, not the law. Can you keep a homemade videotape for 30 days and use it twice within the same period? Well, the answer used to be no, but things are changing. Many laws do apply to copyrighted materials. For example, in software use, copying textbooks, selling someone's music. So, what is copyright anyway? Only tangible forms of expression, a book, play, drawing, film, photo, etc., are subject to copyright. U.S. copyright law gives the creator of a work the exclusive right to reproduce or distribute their original works. The copyright holder owns the right to create new works based upon the original, like make a movie from the book or write a sequel to a book, and the right to perform or display the work publicly. Ideas are not copyrightable. Once you express the idea in a tangible form, then it's copyrightable. Are there limitations on the rights of the copyright holder? Well, there are a number of limitations, but I want to focus on 3 big ones. Think about this. If you buy a CD and you don't like it, can you resell it to your friend without violating copyright? Yes, you can. That's permitted under the first sale doctrine. It allows a consumer to resell a product containing copyrighted material, such as a book or a CD, that the consumer bought or was given without the copyright owner's permission, like on eBay, Craigslist, or our employee marketplace. However, a recent court case held that the first sale doctrine does not apply to software, which is covered by a software license. Now, you know all those classics of literature that are available to us to read free online? That's the second limitation to copyright. Those are in the public domain, because copyright only protects original works of authorship for a set amount of time. Currently, copyright terms differ based upon the author. An individual author might have a copyright for the life of the author plus 70 years. A corporate author's copyright might last for 95 years from publication or 120 years after the creation of the work. Public domain works can be freely used by anyone for commercial and non-commercial purposes without permission by an original copyright owner or author. Public domain status allows the user complete access and unlimited creativity. Some works are designated for free and unlimited public access by the creator, and some works are no longer covered by copyright law because the copyright status has expired or it's been forfeited by the owner. By the way, Creative Commons is an example of the public domain. You can choose to put your work there. Many people do, so their work can be freely used by others. Finally, a third limitation to copyright, and the one we're learning about today, is fair use. Fair use is actually an exception to the copyright law that allows the public to use portions of copyrighted work without permission from the copyright owner. To decide whether a use is a fair use, courts look at these 4 factors. First, what is the purpose and character of the use? Often in school settings, the purpose is educational. Another thing to consider in the first factor is the character of the use. Did you transform the original? We'll talk more about transformation in a minute. Second, what is the nature of the copyrighted work? Is it facts and ideas, or is it creative expression? Fair use does not apply to some works, such as standardized tests or consumables. The third factor to consider is the amount of the work used. How much are you using? If it's the whole book, then it's not fair use. Many of the guidelines from the copyright posters near photocopiers about how much of a work you can use are based on this factor. But if it's a chapter of a book or a clip from a movie you're using in a presentation, that's likely okay. The more you take, the less likely you can claim fair use. And finally, the fourth factor is the effect of your use on the value of the copyrighted work. Are you taking away the ability of the copyright holder to make money or control use of the work? This is good news for us. Fair use in education is more favorably interpreted than fair use in other settings. As we know, things are always changing, like technology and ways to use it. New practices in schools encourage finding and using the work of others to create a new product. What are some of the new practices in schools? There's a use of social networking spaces to share ideas and engage in dialogue. The use of digital files, slides, videos, and audio clips to teach in the classroom. The use of images, quotes, video, audio, music, podcasts, wikis, and websites by students. And the use of online tools for creative expression, like Flickr, Glogster, and VoiceThread. Earlier, I mentioned the word transformation. The question you need to ask yourself is, did you transform the original work with new meaning or purpose? Let me explain that a little more by telling you the story of DK Publishing and the Grateful Dead. DK Publishing wanted to combine Grateful Dead posters in a new book, Grateful Dead: The Illustrated Trip. It was a full-color coffee table book. It was to tell the story of the Grateful Dead along a timeline. It would use over 2,000 images to show their history with short text boxes of details. Now, Bill Graham Archives owned the copyright on 7 images from Grateful Dead posters and tickets. DK Publishing felt the fee charged by the copyright owner was too high, and they decided not to pay it and to publish the book with these pictures anyway. In 2006, the Second Circuit, one level below the Supreme Court, ruled in favor of DK Publishing because their use was transformative. Earlier, we talked about the 4 factors to determine fair use, but after that 2006 court case, the first factor, the purpose and character of the work, was interpreted to include the idea of transformation. 1. Did you use the copyrighted material for a different purpose? And 2. Did you add value to the original? The idea of transformation is important to whether or not your use falls under fair use. When you think about what copyright used to mean, this is very different. There aren't many strict guidelines. District policy is being updated, and it will be posted on the website soon. For now, just consider the 4 factors of fair use. It's your decision whether something constitutes fair use in education. For example, when your students use Google Images, how can you help them think about copyright? Well, for starters, if you use a copyrighted image, ask for permission to use the copyrighted material whenever possible and always cite the source. Look for materials that are licensed for education use under Creative Commons. What about copying an article for every teacher to use during staff development? Is that allowed? Does staff development fall under educational purposes? Does copying the article affect the market for it? Educating staff members may legitimately fall under fair use. You may be saying to yourself, this copyright issue can be so confusing. Can I use the song in my presentation or not? You're right. There are no easy answers, but because the copyright law has no hard and fast rules, each person must make a reasonable analysis based on their specific facts. There are many guidelines for fair use. You and your students should also consider the 4 factors that determine fair use of copyrighted materials. And remember, whenever possible, give credit to the owner of the work. You can find more information online, including lessons, quizzes, and fair use guide sheets. Then, you and your students will know if your use is fair.